It's a time! China time with a package from China. Let's go! Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in this video, we are going to take a close look at the Pandora's book Jungle again. Yep, we have a new Pandora box, and we're going to take a close look if this is the new king of the jungle. So this year alone, I think I have seen like more than 10 different new Pandora's boxes. And most of the times, for the people watching, you know, it's like being a repeating over and over again the same stuff that they keep releasing. There were some new hidden gems, like the Pandora Box AX, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We did a review about that thing, but just wanted to see what we're going to get with the latest addition to the Pandora Box family or the jungle. So out of nothing, we had this Pandora OS version, and I was more like, oh man, what are we going to get? The name itself makes no sense whatsoever in my opinion, but I just want to see what it is. So here you can see, we do have a lot of space. And the reason why, because they are like making these things smaller and cheaper nowadays. But if they're going to be better, that is what we're going to find out and test today. Now you can see, they're just reusing the freaking shells. Is it the same? Yep, it is. Alright, so let's rip this thing from the shell. So these shells are quite nice, and yeah, if you just want to do some modding, for example with an arcade machine, we have some holes over here, so basically you can hang them in your arcade machine, super easy, and that's what I really like about these things. Also, you can just mod them into your arcade machines or your arcade one-up, and not to forget, we can use them in your plug-and-play arcade game consoles. So, but in consideration, depending on what kind of casing we have. The first surprise that we're going to get is actually that we're going to get some extra options when it comes to the mainboard itself. We'll grab a different one I will show you. So first of all, we're going to get an active fan. So this is an issue with some of these things. We're not going to get active fans at all anymore. And yeah, I can tell you this thing is quite silent. So I'm very pleased with that. We're going to get some extra connection, but this one doesn't have the option to put in a portable arcade machine. Alright, so here we're going to get the GPIO connection, and yeah, what you can do with it is fairly simple. And what I really like about this, that we're going to have this cable that you can basically buy separately. Sometimes you're going to get it in the kit, depending what kind of model. You can buy this thing with a game controller. Yeah, you can just buy it like a game system, or you can just basically get it with a kit like this. So if you have any arcade one-up or another machine, you plug in the EA cable over here and just connect all the things to your joysticks and buttons. It's like really easy peasy when it comes to adding this thing to your arcade machine. And here we're going to get the SD card that they put with some hot glue. And the reason why, because sometimes when they're getting loose and a little bit with biotransport, yeah, the files are on here, sometimes part of the OS, so yeah, you will boot up an empty box if this thing isn't being assembled or it's going to get corrupted. But here you can see like in side-by-side comparison with the first generation boxes, you can see like this, they try to make these boxes cheaper, the cheap. Like now we're going to get a different position, of course, for the CPU, GPU, but also like everything has been switched around. It still has, I need to put it like this, still it has, of course, the same connection over here. Then we're going to get the connections for the speaker and of course the on and off switch. And some of them, like this one, does have like the option for a ribbon cable. For example, if you want to use in a portable arcade for your display. And this one has the pins over here. So there are some minor differences. They also call this thing the GB2000L MBVB. And there is no production date whatsoever on this. But yeah, let's hook it up and let's see what we're going to get also with the CPU cooler, stuff like that. I'm curious, like how good, how bad is it? And yeah, what kind of chip are we going to get with this? Yeah, more like getting this Tetris feeling with this thing. Okay, so what we're going to get is just this very light-weighted fan, nothing really special. They're not using any thermal cooling, they're having like these thermal pads over here. So let's get rid of this thing. Be very gentle so we're not going to ruin this up. Ooh, that's what I mean, like, oh man, they are using this really thin one. Okay, let's put it on the fan over there. But what kind of one of a chip are we going to get? So they are using the Allwinner H3. That is a very old school quad core. Think about Orange Pi, stuff like that. So this is like really old specs. Yeah, and this we're going to get a 1 RAM chip. So I think it was around 1 GB. So the specs of this thing are really basic. Like cheap. So I mentioned before that we can buy this thing like in game system. There's something you need to take consideration with these cheap boxes. So nowadays we do have like okay, let's say quality fake PlayStation 2 controllers. These things are not like cheap. This one it is, doesn't even have like real rubber. joysticks, this one is slightly better, but when you're looking at this and compared with the Xbox 360 controller, this is so much better. But not all of the boxes have the option to play with these controllers. They're most of the time very limited. Some of the boxes do have the option for an Xbox 360 and other controllers, but when it comes to the cheap boxes, we have big limitations. I just wanted to give you a quick demonstration what I mean. So the Xbox 360 controller is supported, but the weirdness is like this thing goes all crazy. But plugging it in, you can see nothing is happening most of the time. And when you're touching a button or a joystick, it goes automatically when it comes to scrolling or inputs. See, sometimes it doesn't do that, but this is like completely messed up. And this is stuff that I've seen with a lot of these cheap boxes. So there is no support for my Xbox 360 controller. The only thing that it does is this. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the game list in general. It's the same stuff that we have seen before, and it seems that everything has been preset to a different language beside English. A little bit of a bummer in my opinion. And with the three-dimensional games, you need to take into consideration most of the time that we're going to get just PlayStation games. It's kind of weird that they call it three-dimensional games. With the latest Pandora box, we're going to get more options, but with these boxes, we're just going to get PlayStation 1. Let's see how it runs, because that is always the question. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to use this mainboard inside the casing itself, because oh man, the controllers are a freaking nightmare. What are we going to get with this? So, to begin with, what we're going to get is Brain Neo Geo. We're going to get some Lost 8 and 16-bit games. It's going to be a mix of all kinds of things. And of course, the language hasn't been set to English. A little bit of a bummer in my opinion. I've been messing around with the settings, and it's highly possible to get it back into the English language. But in overall, it does have the features like this one, like with the Pandora's Box 6, you can search with three-dimensional games, so having like different platforms, and also have possibility to use with controllers up to 4 players. But the 4 players with the controllers and showing you, it's going to be a freaking nightmare if you ask me. But how will the gameplay in general will be on this cheap box? Alright, so I've managed to set it to English, and yeah, a little bit of a nightmare finding the right way. And the reason why you need to put it on English, if you don't do that, the search function doesn't work at all. But sadly there is no Mortal Kombat, and I know why this is, because the H3 is not powerful enough to run it properly. So I must say that I want to give them like bad kudos for this, but I understand it doesn't run, so why add it? Hey, they start learning it. Well, let's jump back into the settings, and the reason why, because I just wanted to show you. So the enhanced image quality was open, closed, open, closed, on and off, but yeah, whatever. You were getting the point. But that's such a weird thing, like there is nothing else you can like mess around. You can like configure if you want to use the controls itself, but I just gonna be honest, like this board works perfectly inside a Pandora's box or an arcade machine, but beside that it's freaking awful, like it's really awful. But as you're going to get when you're looking at basically the configuration when the menu, it's even like slimmed down compared with older and newer devices. Okay, so what are we going to get? So when it comes to the performance, I think the two-dimensional stuff or the old stuff will just fine. What we're going to get a big difference is where we're going to get some screen tearing with the faster gameplay games. You can already see some screen tearing going on. That is what we're going to get with most of these cheap boxes. Take consideration, this thing runs on freaking old school hardware, an A3 all-winner, so that is not very new. It's pretty damn old. It's powerful enough to run these games with no problem whatsoever. One of the features they basically ripped off on the Pandora Box 6 is that we're going to get now, or with the DX for example, we're going to get the quick load and quick save function. Let's see where the buttons are. All the buttons of course messed up, or mapped incorrectly. So the overall performance when it comes with PlayStation 1 is, in my opinion, not bad at all. I have seen my stuttering, shitty emulation parts, but this thing is not doing a very bad job. Okay, so let's play a little bit of Beefcake and Dinosaurs, and these games roll just fine. I can say that it runs very good. Clubbering time, baby! But yeah, in overall performance, it's similar to the first generation of Pandora's boxes, only tweaked with some extra awesome things like search results. So I don't Yeah, I do get it that they want to make like a cheap box, but in the end what you're going to get, you're not paying, let's say, a lot more when you're looking at some other devices. Think about the Pandora box, CX, DX, stuff like that. They're like a couple of dollars more, and what you're going to get in the end is better performance, way more options when it comes to playing some retro games. And this is, in my opinion, just basic, you know, like there's nothing really special here. The same stuff all over again. Alright guys, so the conclusion is this board is a joke to me. Seriously, like, I have seen so many of these boards, but this is more like trying to find a new way with a new name to basically sell the same crap. This tiny board inside, it's more like a cost-effective thing to make these things cheaper, to produce them cheaper, but you're still paying a lot of money for it. And when you're looking at the first Pandora's boxes, let's say for me it's 5 and 6, compared with this one, there is nothing new over here. It's the same stuff, only you're still paying a lot of money for it, in my opinion, and the results when it comes to emulation performance is quite bad. Yeah, let me know what do you think of this. I want to thank you for watching. Consider subscribing, hit that little bell to become in the Wicked family, and I will see you in the next video.